Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Minnesota State IT Center of Excellence Career Readiness podcast. My name is Chad Eckes. I'm the current manager of Career Readiness curriculum for the center and host for today's episode. This podcast is the third episode in our short series focused on the center's efforts of developing and growing the Career Readiness D2L modules and their associated digital badges. Our focus today is on the student viewpoint of career readiness skills, and we have two recent students from Minnesota State institutions here to provide us with their perspectives. First, let me introduce Rose Dillon, who is a computer science major at Metropolitan State University. Thanks for joining us today, Rose.
Thank you, Chad, for having me.
And also we have Molly Clabots, who recently graduated with her degree in software development from Minneapolis College. Welcome, Molly.
Thanks, Chad.
Yes, thank you both for your time today. Now, I'd like to mention to everybody listening that I've had the great pleasure of working with Rose and Molly over the last 5, 6, 7 months, as the center has been introducing digital badges at both Minneapolis College and Metro State around our career readiness skills. And Rose and Molly played the role of student ambassador for our project at both campuses, and really helped me and the team at the Center of Excellence improve the modules and really understand the voice of the student as students went through taking the modules in their courses. So we'll get to that part of their background in the conversation here. But to get started, I want each of them to introduce themselves, just a short introduction. Rose, I'll start with you. Just tell us a little bit about your background and really what interested you in studying technology and moving into a computer science track.
Oh, thank you, Chad. I have always had a passion for technology or just building things or learning or trying to understand how things work. So technology was a natural fit for the kind of mindset that I had. So technology for me, or being in the technology field, really is something where I find it challenging and the continuous space of learning and just being creative and building something to improve the lives of other people or their surroundings is something that is really inspirational to me and really drives me on a day-to-day basis. So
fantastic.
This is a natural fit. Thank you.
And what's been one of your favorite courses? I'm just curious.
I would say I took data structures and algorithms, and that really opened my eyes to a lot of different things, why computer science field exists and why it solves some really major problems in the world. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Molly, same question to you. Introduce yourself and a little bit about your background and what drew you into your software development passion.
Yeah, my background has been very minorly technical. I've pursued some technical things on my own, mostly just a project person. I worked a long time in service, and eventually a friend of mine suggested that I start looking into it. I was looking for a job, basically, that would just support myself, and I was delightfully surprised to realize that technology is a major passion for me. One of my favorite courses was probably my Android course, because I was familiar enough with Java and I was minorly familiar enough with the frameworks, and it was really fun, number one, to be able to make things that I could instantaneously use, but it was also really rewarding to really close the circle on my understanding of the frameworks and everything that kind of goes into it.
Oh, super cool. So an Android and a data analytics passion from each of you there. Those were really cool responses. I have some technology background, not nearly as much as either of you currently. Back in the day, I did some programming in structured query language and COBOL. I don't know if they even teach COBOL anymore.
I'm sorry to interrupt. They're thinking about starting to teach that at my school because there's such a huge demand because people are retiring.
Oh my gosh, maybe I should dust off my skills and go back into it. Oh man. Well, great. Well, thanks for sharing that and your introduction. I know I've gotten to know both of you a little bit over the course of this project. I think you're both going to have fantastic insights throughout this podcast. I want to dig in right now into career readiness skills, aka soft skills, things like, again, teamwork, collaboration, communications, both oral and written, leadership. Given both of your passions for technology, but also what I've learned is that you're very interested and very keen on the soft skills as well. So I think I'd love to hear from your perspectives, each of your perspectives, why you think it's important for students in technology to learn and practice these career readiness skills. Molly, why don't I start with you on that?
From what I've been able to glean, the importance is kind of twofold. One, there's definitely a culture to being in a professional setting, and being able to figure out how to integrate yourself into that culture is pretty critical to having us. And the other is that it's just doing intellectual work that we're going to be doing. It's really important to be able to remain mentally healthy. And I think a really big part of that is not only being able to communicate, but being able to, maintain your own mood. And I mean, obviously communication is a huge part of that, because we want to be able to be respectful and, allow people to experience happiness and joy to keep things going.
So, right, I think what I heard you say is, I mean, it really helps you stay balanced because you're able to effectively communicate with those you're working with, whether it's about, the work subject or just maybe other, like you said, mental health topics. So it's imperative, therefore, I think what you're saying, to have those career readiness skills. Did I catch that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. Rose, what would you add to that, or from your perspective, why do you think it's important?
I definitely agree with Molly. And then just to take it another step further, I would say that technical skills can always be trained, or an employer can always put a person who's motivated on the path to get some type of technical training. But if you're coming in with the soft skills, the motivation, it makes you more employable. People are seeking, at least employers are seeking people who can come into an organization and lead, transform their organizations, really inspire their colleagues and things like that, and be able to sell the missions and the goals of the organization. So when you have somebody who has these skills that can come in and really communicate and really lead and really transform the organization, employers are excited about that, to give you more opportunity. And then the technical skills piece, I think it's easier to be able to take a course and get that information, but having that critical underlying foundation of communications, listening, thinking critically, and things like that is really essential to make a person whole in terms of their career goals, and really building successful paths in their career.
Sure. And I know both of you have, strong work experience, both, I think, before, during, and now after your time within Minnesota State. Do you see that playing out in your particular careers? Like, because I know both of you have excelled in these sort of soft skills. And again, that's why you gravitated, I think, to be part of our project. But do you see that playing out in terms of your ability to be successful in your jobs? Rose, why don't you go first?
Yes, I on a day-to-day basis, you get called upon to either communicate something technical or to just give your opinions on something. So I'll say that if I didn't have the knowledge that this career readiness program has afforded me, I think it would be hard, because going into the workplace, most people are probably shy or conscious of speaking in I guess in front of people. But having this opportunity to go through the career readiness program, I've gained those additional skills to be able to say, yes, I can take this on, I can lead, I can communicate, I can speak about something technical or non-technical in the setting. So yes.
Great. Same with you, Molly, or what are you sensing as you've been working hard? I know you've been working almost a full-time job and going to school recently.
Yeah. I would say working at Target, a whole gambit of people's experiences and personalities that they bring to the table, from, like Rose said, being pretty shy to being really out there and having a strong opinion. And in my own personal experience right now, like I've already come up against both of those things, and I found that it just invaluable to be able to figure out how to connect with both of those styles, because both of those are valid, and being able to collaborate with people, that's the job. That's almost
Mhm.
entirely what it is, being curious, figuring things out, and being able to work with people.
Sure, sure. So, in your time at Minnesota State or any other, higher ed institution, have you found good opportunities to learn those skills, practice those, these career readiness skills, either in or outside of courses? Either of you can jump in.
I
I
would
would
say
say,
for me, yep. Go ahead, Molly.
oh man, I would say that I personally always saw going to school as practice, because whether or not you're going to be collaborating with students, there's always going to be some interaction with other students. So in that sense, 100%, I would say school does focus on trying to get people into groups and collaborating. So in a more hands-on sense as well. Yeah, definitely. Rose?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I say just going into environment where there are people, there's some type of interaction and communication. My thought process in terms of university or Minnesota State University providing this environment, I think it's there. I'm not sure if it's in the ICS or IT department that people strategically think about saying, oh, you guys need to work in groups and think about communication or collaboration that from that perspective, because early on in your career, you're told to do your work independently and to really hone your technical skills. And then eventually when you reach at the upper level courses, people are saying, oh, now you need to be in group when you've said this entire time that I should work on my project independently, think critically,
Yeah.
and be prepared for the workforce. And now you're saying go into groups. And sometimes that's a difficulty students face. Yes.
Yeah, sure. So just to touch on something, you're sort of both kind of talking about the experience in the classroom, kind of outside the classroom, within courses, doing team projects, but also, needing to do independent work. Um, you know, Rose, I'll have you go first here, but why do you think it's important for Minnesota State technology departments, computer science, IT, and the faculty in those departments, that make up the teaching? Why do you think it's important for us to teach these softer skills?
I'll say that the world that we live in really requires thinking, innovative thinking, and it doesn't come from one person. So there's a lot of perspective that has good solutions to problems that could be solved in the world. So I think faculty already have this mindset and they're aware of it. I just think it will be important for them to encourage this kind of a way of coming together and sharing this kind of knowledge so that people feel that not only are they getting their technical skills, but they are prepared to go into the workforce and really work and collaborate. You are not going to be solving problems on your own. People go into this field really to tackle difficult problems. So if you're going to be solving problems for people in the world, you
Yeah.
have to really be involved and engaged. And I think faculty members, they might think about it in hindsight, but I think it needs to be at the forefront because this is critical
Yeah.
for building a better world.
Molly, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I guess I'd say I was able to get like a little bit of a different perspective because my college invited me to be on their academic business council. That's one of the things that my college does. They meet up with companies to try to figure out what companies are really looking for, and that has been something that has been like a reoccurring theme. Where I mean, what I've noticed personally is that companies are starting to try to incorporate that stuff more and more. But at the same time, you still have to be able to come into the job realizing that is actually a priority, and that is actually a part of what you will be continuing to learn outside of just, the technical things for your job. So
Sure.
just being able to meet them halfway, from what I can tell, is really important.
That's great feedback. And I've talked to a good number of faculty around Minnesota State, or certainly presented to groups who are very front and center that, yes, we should be incorporating more career readiness skills training and practice into our courses, whether it's a teamwork module or a leadership module or communications or empathy or whatnot. So I think there's really great support for our initiative in putting these modules out there. And I think your feedback and what you're saying in terms of importance and why faculty should, continue to think about and try to teach these skills, I think that's really helpful for all of us to hear. So I want to turn our attention to the project we just worked on, which we called Project Elevate, where we introduced the notion of digital badges for students completing our career readiness modules. And the results are still coming in, but it looks like we're going to have a great number of badges being awarded here pretty soon, which is fantastic. Now, in your roles, you were able to not only review our modules and give some feedback to make them better, but then you were able to look at some student feedback, both from surveys as well as, I think, talk to a few students one-on-one about their experience and, kind of see, how we could improve or what went well. So I'll start with Molly here. If you could just let us know from your perspective, the students you interact with or the surveys you'd seen, tell us what you found to be, positive reactions from students, and then things where we're being told to, make improvements or things that, didn't go quite as well. Because again, I think our audience would love to hear both of those, but I know the Center of Excellence certainly wants to understand how to keep making things get better. So Molly, just give us your thoughts on, what you heard from students in your kind of your voice of student project.
Yeah. From what I was hearing, I think the positives are just that, people don't have experience, having any kind of formal training or any kind of conversations about the kinds of things that the modules are about. People don't really talk about how they socialize almost in any aspect of life most of the time. And so just having something like this, I think, from what I've heard from students, is really opening their eyes to, there are better ways of doing things. And I think it has helped students feel, more prepared to be successful. And from what I've heard, it's been pretty positive feedback in terms of, just being happy that this is now becoming a thing. In terms of negatives, I think it's just, people, like I said, people aren't as exposed to this kind of thing. And so, I think that they didn't really know what to expect. And so, most of what I heard is just, not being familiar, not totally understanding, and, things perhaps being long. So in my opinion, it's just a matter of like, people are kind of getting used to, learning this as a thing. And I think moving forward, I think it'll be interesting to keep seeing more feedback from people.
Okay. So just to replay that, I think what you said on, a lot of students had a very positive reaction because they hadn't seen anything like this before, and they did feel that it was preparing them to be more successful in their workplace or their future workplace. And so they generally accepted it and tried really hard. Also, it sounds like there may be a few students who, again, same reason, they hadn't seen it before, so they are maybe more confused by it or just thought it was. It sounded like there was a sense of confusion because, again, they're not familiar with being trained in collaboration or communication. Could I kind of catch that right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Okay, thanks. Rose, how about you? What from the students you talked to and the surveys you read, what were some of the positive outcomes?
I think, like Molly, a lot of positive was coming from the survey results. and people felt like they didn't have enough time. They wanted more. Um, so that's a good thing in terms of feedback for people to say, I want more. And I would
Yeah.
like to be able to practice this and do it to a place where I feel comfortable owning it and using it in my career journey, you know. I think I don't think it's really negative, but I think as far as a different perspective, students were saying that the time that they had was too short, you know what I mean? And then why that not only was it too short, but just with the COVID situation and not being able to actually practice the skills all the way
Hmm.
through, they felt like they were missing out on something. So,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, depending on when people are listening to this, I mean, we are in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and that definitely played a significant role, I think, in everybody's experience, faculty, students, all of Minnesota State, just given the changes to moving courses online, things like that, and longer periods of time without courses during March. So yeah, I sensed that as well in looking at some of your feedback and looking at some surveys. But again, on the positive side, it feels like given the right amount of time and even potentially more exercises or more opportunities to practice, students were generally quite happy and really glad that they were be able, had this material in their course. We had all kinds of courses this semester that were piloting the badges and our modules. We had management information systems, cybersecurity, computer support, and then courses specifically tied to career readiness. So Brian Hillman's course at Minneapolis College was a full 1 credit course, pretty much tied to preparing for IT work. So thank you for those comments and for summarizing what you heard from students. We'll continue to try to poll and survey students in future semesters and build on that, your body of work and your data to continue to improve. My last question here for our podcast is I wanted to understand, again, I asked a little bit about why you thought it was important for faculty to teach the skills and incorporate them into their tracks or their specific courses. Given what you know now about the modules and student feedback, what advice would you give to our technology instructors and professors as they consider putting these modules to use in their courses? Molly, I'll start with you.
I guess I would say from personal experience, I think that the more that we can get speakers to, speak to the validity of all of the modules, to really bring home the importance and to really give people an understanding of the scope of the importance of the modules, I think that would be incredibly important, because I think as a student, I just kind of remember being in the mode of like, let's get through this, let's get done, especially, when I was first starting. So I think that, just really having someone come in saying, I do the job that you're going to be doing. And I can tell you right now that, pay attention, focus. So as much as it's possible, again, I think just getting speakers to speak to maybe each section of the module would be nice, or just maybe one or two.
Okay, great. That's a great idea. Yeah, having speakers from industry, again, software developers or Cisco engineers, et cetera, whatever the topic of the course is, having a guest speaker and talk about those skills. That's very helpful advice. Rose, how about from your perspective?
yeah, I agree totally with what Molly said. And I'll just say that in addition, students, for me, when I come into the classroom, what I'm really looking for is hoping to gain the skills and knowledge to be able to be a better employee, a better citizen, and a better person overall. So when we come into the classroom, the teacher, the faculty that's presenting theories and information are our first contact to that long-term journeying career path that we're looking for. So it's critical when we're in those spaces that faculty are, and most of them do, are really helping us prepare and see the bigger picture in terms of yes, we're teaching you the technical skills, but you also have to be an effective leader, and these modules are critical to your success in terms of your long-term longevity of your career. So I think faculty understand it, students are excited for it, so just having more, and even like Molly said, people coming in and talking, but even students who graduate and have gone through these modules should be able to come back and say how that impact their career or their job search or anything beyond the classroom.
Great. So, right, guest speakers from industry, potentially even past students, but even, like you're saying, Rose, faculty members, however they can communicate to their class that, these are important, potentially essential skills that need to be practiced and learned, and that's why they're being presented in the course. So, faculty do play that role of, helping coach their students, and whether it's a technical skill or a non-technical skill, faculty have, that great responsibility, which all of them take totally seriously, especially the faculty that we've had on our project. They're so passionate about the success of their students, both in the classroom and out of the classroom. And that's what's so great about Minnesota State.
I would agree.
Well,
yes.
Yeah. Well, that really wraps it up for us. I really appreciate your time, not just on this podcast, but certainly across the last number of months on our project. Hopefully, we're almost to the finish line with our project, and you'll all be part of our final report. And hopefully we can have some kind of celebration down the road, even if it is just a Zoom celebration. But I really appreciate your time today, and again on this project. For our audience, I just want to say thanks for listening. That pretty much does it for this episode of the Career Readiness Podcast. Thanks again for supporting the center's mission, which is to engage industry, inspire students, and enhance IT education to build a more robust technology workforce in Minnesota. Thank you.